Welcome to Season 3, Episode 9 of the Data-Based Podcast. I'm Dr. Molly Stewart, Senior Product Manager at Education Analytics, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Vice President of Product, Rosh Dhanawade. We work with school districts on interoperability and data quality using the EdFi data standard, and through this work, we've come to realize that there are at least 3 different languages being spoken by people working in this space: the language of databases and code, the language of teaching, learning, and educational leadership, and the language of research, including data science and statistics. This podcast aims to bridge the gaps among those 3 general areas because the more we understand how each group conceptualizes data-related topics, the more progress we can make towards solutions for educators and students that fully take advantage of best practices and cutting-edge knowledge in each of these fields of work.
And today we're welcoming our guest, Senior Product Manager, Katie O'Brien. Katie leads our work in our visualization space and is going to talk to us about a product that we have called Podium, which is part of our data platform suite of products. And so, Katie, thanks for joining us. And how are you?
Well, thanks for having me. Doing great. How are you?
Doing well. We like to ask all of our guests up front to just walk us through their background. We have a lot of different people that work in this space and different backgrounds that have led them to this type of work. Can you just walk us through how you came to EA, how you came to this particular line of work, and just give our audience a sense of who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am one of the longtime EA employees. I've been here for almost 9 years now. I started at EA when I was a college student at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I was an analyst intern. I came on as a full-time analyst after I graduated from school, and primarily at that time worked on our value-added research projects and our growth projects, but was given a few opportunities to dabble in data visualization and how we report those findings out to our partners, and just really fell in love with that side of the work. So over time, started specializing in that more and more. Um, have really has really focused on data visualization for school principals and district level leaders, and have been involved in Podium since its infancy, since it was kind of a different product altogether. And then was the technical leader of Podium for a year and have then transitioned into a product manager role. So still in contact with the technical side of things, but now also thinking more big picture about what we're trying to do with Podium and how we can help best support education leaders.
So you mentioned Podium. I've mentioned Podium. Tell us what Podium is.
Yeah, so Podium is a data visualization platform for education leaders. It hosts a core dashboard suite of dashboards that answer these common questions that all districts and all locales are trying to answer, right? So like, what is our chronic absenteeism rate today? What behaviors are leading to the most out of school suspensions across demographics? Who's enrolled in third grade? Like these big common questions that everyone has. We have built a dashboard suite of around 10 dashboards that tries to answer these questions for folks so that in the districts they can then focus on the more custom, more district specific analytical questions that come up. And with that, then we have a add-on to Podium that allows for districts to create self-service dashboards using our business intelligence platform, so that they can have those custom dashboards and these common dashboards in the same space for their users.
Who are the primary consumers of these dashboards? So I hear the use cases and the needs for these type of data, but who is Podium aimed at, and what role is it supposed to play in their day-to-day business operations?
Yeah. Yeah, it has evolved a little bit over time. So we started really focused on school and district leaders, um, and really trying to give them a one-stop shop where they could answer these quick questions themselves rather than needing to go to the district data team or whoever on in their district is answering those questions for them and pulling a report. We really wanted to give them a place they could go to ask these questions quickly, be able to manipulate the data via filters so that they can see exactly what they're looking for. And that is still definitely our core customer base, our core user base. But we've also realized that there's a lot of value in these dashboards for regional leaders, state leaders who are looking to help support their districts and data use, and also need a more high level view of what's going on in their region or state. So it does serve a pretty wide use from principals that are just trying to understand what's going on in their campus to state leaders who need a mile high view across their state.
What are some of the challenges? So BI, as like a big tent, has lots of different types of tools that can be used to deliver it. So walk us through some of the technical challenges that we took on. That's when I first arrived at EA, this is one of the first things that as director of the cloud engineering team, we had to reckon with is like
Mhm.
commitments that we have to what we can actually support, what we can actually deploy. Lots of commercial BI require particular licensing modes, particular commitments to technology stacks. What was the process by which you landed on well, one, what is the actual underlying technology that furnishes Podium? And
Mhm.
then walk us through the journey that it took to get there and kind of where it started and how it has landed at where you've just described it is right now.
Yeah, that's a very good question that I could take a lot of directions. Before I get into like exactly what we're using, I'll just say like saying that business intelligence is a wide landscape is 100% correct. In an education, we're often trying to use business intelligence in a way that it was not originally meant for, right? Like business intelligence is really meant for built originally for business finance, like year-to-date invoices, things like that. And we're really not as usually focused on like a calendar date metric. And so no matter what business intelligence tool you use, working in education can make it more difficult because you're often trying to bend it to do something that it isn't necessarily built to do, which comes with fun challenges. But to answer your actual question about the
Well, I mean, we could
journey.
just stay there for a second. I think that's like a fascinating place to pause. Can you give us some examples of where the domain of education pushes the concept of business intelligence in ways that the technology and then the expected consumption are like mismatched?
Yeah, absolutely. Two main examples come to mind for me. The first is around like any time comparison metrics or um, time comparison metrics or filtering. Like a lot of tools have built in like quarter one, quarter two time comparisons, but by that they mean like the business calendar, right? Not school terms. And so to try to force those comparisons that are really meant for a business calendar into the school year calendar in ways that it's not meant to be. So that's one way that it can kind of bump up against what it's built for. The other is in some of the technical behind the scenes sides, like um, student data privacy is incredibly important. Keeping our data separate by partner is incredibly important to us. And so we keep uh, different instances of the tool we use, which I'll get to preset for each of our partners. And that really confuses a lot of the business intelligence tools companies we're looking for. Like they're usually always single tenant because they're working with one business who's working on their internal analytics. And when we are trying to work in a multi-tenant space, a lot of the tools just haven't fully thought through what that needs to look like, or it's more difficult than it seems like it should be.
Yeah, this is one of our core tenets at EA is that we are building infrastructure for education, but we're also trying to bring in best of class tooling from the corporate world into the education world, and that's where it hits some of these friction points. And another place that we've seen this as well is just in terms of pricing models as it relates to who's consuming data. When you're talking about a commercial BI tool, the audience for data and the creators of data are relatively straightforward when you're within the walls of one organization. But if you're trying to scale access to data across many organizations that have, for lack of a better word, a bunch of sub-organizations within. So if you're talking about a state agency, and then that state agency has a bunch of districts, the district then has a bunch of schools, the schools then have a bunch of different user groups within it. You have this tree of usage that it explodes in complexity that we have to manage around on both the incoming data side, so on the EdFi side, if you've listened to previous podcasts on the Stadium EDU side, and then conveying that up to a business intelligence layer then requires yet another set of affordances that you have to work within. And so that like the concept of delivering data to somebody in a classroom sounds very straightforward, but the actual execution of it, because of these tiered organizations, definitely causes some issues. You mentioned Podium's kind of pivot from local to state agencies and like facilitating needs for both of those levels. What kinds of actual challenges do you encounter in the field given like these different strata of people that need to access the same data but in either slightly different ways or slightly different slices of the same data?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We are really trying to think through our approach to this right now, to be honest. So far,
I was
so
gonna say we just met about that earlier this week. This
yeah.
well-timed question, Rosh.
I will say one thing that makes things honestly a little easier for Podium is so users are not accessing these dashboards via the business intelligence tool itself. They are going to an application that we have built that has its own security layer and its own authorization. And then we embed the dashboards into that application, which gives a better user experience in terms of like navigating across dashboards and some more accessory features, but also allows us to define the security and authorization outside of the business intelligence tool and then pass through what we've defined to preset. Um, and so right now we have row level security for every user that comes through. They can see whatever they're able to in the data warehouse. And so far that works really well. It just means that the dashboards look exactly the same in terms of structure and filters for every user. And so sometimes a school level user is like, why do I have this district filter, right? I only have one district, where that district filter is necessary for all of the state level users that are in the dashboard as well. So there are some like interesting design choices of like how can we make the fact that this needs to serve multiple needs as unobtrusive as possible for all of the different types of folks in the dashboards?
Molly, you were mentioning that we were talking through this. Do you want to elaborate on that at all? Like the types of challenges that we've been discussing behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I'm going to speak to this too in maybe a broader sense, because from the research and analytics side, we've had a similar question with who should be able to access what data. And, when you're just exporting a file of data and sending it to someone, obviously they only have access to that file, but you give up a lot of advantages of having a connected system when you just use an export of data. So enabling data access by many different users for different purposes requires specific rules in place really for each of those different groups of users and maybe even like a specific user. So I think I'm interested in that, not necessarily from the Podium standpoint, but from a researcher partnership standpoint. But I'm paying close attention to what Katie's doing with Podium there.
Yeah, and who defines what each user can have access to, right? Like in Podium, we're building out a feature where different where you can restrict dashboard access to different roles. So right now, if you are in a district, you have you have all of the dashboards available to you, where districts really want to be able to say, like, instructional coaches should only be able to see attendance and grades, right? But that really differs by district. Like District A might want them to only see attendance and grades, but District B might also want them to see behavior. So making something that is as customizable as possible, but also secure is an interesting challenge in where to put the decision-making power.
So I think that's a good transition to start talking about like what makes Podium Podium. So you've alluded to like a software layer, preset. Can you just walk us through maybe going historically to like what is our current business intelligence delivery mechanism, and then how did it evolve into what it is today?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I'm going way back, we first started having data visualization platforms by using R Shiny. The analyst team would build out interactive applications in R, which is a really neat and helpful tool, but doesn't necessarily work at scale, especially when you're getting into these like security and multi-tenant environments. We then moved to an actual BI platform. We moved to Looker for a couple of years and enjoyed Looker, but we're looking for something that felt more scalable and aligned with our commitment to open source software. And so we landed on Apache Superset as our business intelligence platform, and we used the hosted version of Apache Superset called Preset, which really helped us be able to scale this out. Preset has really great functionality around multi-tenancy and has strong support for embedding those dashboards in an outside application. So what Preset actually is a set of not Preset. What Podium is an application that we've created that has a security layer that sources from our user management tool. And inside of that application, users can see a set of dashboards that EA has created. Those dashboards are created in Preset and then set into or embedded in the application. And the data behind those dashboards comes from our Ed5 Powered Data Warehouse, Stadium, which is the hosted version of Enabled Data Union. And so why that's really powerful is that all of our partners have the same structure of their data, which allows us to build new dashboards, new features for everyone really quickly and scale it across everyone at the same time, rather than needing to build something for one district and changing the code and deploying it for another. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here, so I'm going to pause there and see if I answered that question or where you want me to take it.
No, that's great. Yep, you're going the exact right direction.
I also would be interested if you can weave this in somehow to talk about the relationship between Stadium and Podium, since we've had Eric on to talk about Stadium. The relationship between those two is very tight and of course related to Ed5. So that would also be of interest.
Yeah. So the core dashboards available in Podium are powered by Stadium. So all of the data is sourced from Stadium. We then, on the Podium side, create some extra data models that combine the Stadium data in the way that we need it, apply extra business rules to make them make more sense in an analytical context, right? Or in a specific analytical context. Stadium is meant for wide data exploration. The Podium core dashboards have specific rules and goals that they're trying to meet. So we apply some extra business logic on top of the Stadium warehouse, and that serves the Podium dashboards.
Outside of some of the permission stuff, why was it necessary to kind of wrap preset and deliver like the delivery mechanism instead of routing people into logging into preset like you would with a normal BI workflow. Why like a software interface for it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few reasons that we felt that was important to start with. One is that whenever you're in a business intelligence tool, you're going to the dashboards tab and then you're clicking across different dashboards where we wanted a more streamlined approach to being able to understand what dashboards you had available to you and navigate between them. So we wanted the application has a sidebar that is ordered. The dashboards are ordered and sortable and really easy to navigate. And we also wanted to provide some more contextual information about each of the dashboards that is harder to do within preset. So each dashboard has a modal that opens up and shows you all of the rules applied, the metric definitions, any limitations, things like that. And then it's also just a more streamlined way to apply the security. But the bigger reason is that the core dashboard suite is only part of the product. We do have an add-on where you can create your own dashboards, your own custom dashboards in preset. And we want you to be able to, a feature we've just rolled out actually is creators' ability to then take the dashboards they've created and embed them into the Podium application right alongside the dashboards we manage. And so that viewers can see the EA managed dashboards and the dashboards answering those like custom district specific questions all in the same space, which wouldn't be possible if they were just in the business intelligence tool themselves.
Does that
What
have a bearing also on affordability? And also related to that, are there differences with how the different BI platforms allow for embedding like with security rules?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are affordability pluses of having it embedded as well. Embedded viewers cost less than being in the platform. Um, and so there is a huge plus to that. Um, I'm not definitely not an expert on how each business intelligence tool prices their embedding capabilities. I do know that Preset encourages embedding. They build a lot of functionality around it, and it is a more affordable way to scale out to thousands of users rather than having them all within the business intelligence tool. And I know in other tools it can be more pricey to scale out your users in that way. It is one of the reasons we transitioned away from the tool we were using before.
And that also requires the user, I mean, not embedding it requires the user to have a much more in-depth skill set as opposed to just a viewer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe more in that the UI can be pretty overwhelming. Like you need to know where you want to go, what you want to look at, where we want to make it more streamlined, more obvious, like what they want to do in this tool and where they want to look.
How do you facilitate? So that feature seems like, a major step forward. When we were previously at INsite, we would often have to tell our partners that the dashboards that you have are the dashboards that everybody has. And the the bar to clear to add a new dashboard meant getting a coalition of people that want the same thing, which is our approach with the core dashboards in Podium.
Yep.
What kind of feedback were you receiving from the field that made you pivot into saying, okay, we have to find a way to also answer this other use case that has the need for partners to be able to differ from the core offering?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what we hear is that the core dashboards are great and they're very useful. And then there is like usually one district specific initiative that they're trying to track. And they're like, oh, if we could look at attendance by week and break it down by attendance event reason, um, that would perfectly help us figure out who's on track for this initiative, right? And like we potentially could add that to the attendance dashboards we have. But not every district has that initiative. Each district has a slightly different initiative, right? So we are hearing a lot that the dashboards are like 99% there and meeting these common questions, and then these more district specific or place specific custom questions come up. And so we're trying to give a easy way for them to create their own custom dashboards to get that last 1 to 5% there, and have them in the same space so you can go back and forth between them. And there's also the EdFi database. The EdFi data standard covers a wide range of data, right? Like we're covering attendance grades, behavior, enrollment, assessments when we have them. But there are place-specific rules or place-specific initiatives that we're just not going to completely cover in our core dashboards. Maybe there's a English language learner program that they're tracking, or a Read to Succeed program that they're trying to track against very specific bench points. Benchmarks. We're not going to have a core dashboard for that. So that's what the goal of allowing folks to create their own dashboards is trying to meet.
Gotcha. Are there any instances where something may have started out as a region specific thing, but then it became clear that that should migrate into the core? Or are you like, how are you maintaining what should be part of core versus what should stick to the domain of geography specific or partner specific custom dashboards?
Yeah. Yeah, that there definitely has been. So we have the core dashboards, and then we also have these like more advanced metrics dashboards that we own or that we created. We've created a growth dashboard and a predictions and targets dashboard that is really looking right now at predicted proficiency. And that started as maybe this is a site-specific dashboard, but let's see if we can make it work for as a product dashboard. We never want to like really handicap the possibility of the dashboard by making it product. Like by making it product, we do put some restraints and constraints around it because it has to work for everyone. So we often approach some of these new builds as, let's see if we can make it extensible across. But if it doesn't work, then we can go back to it just being a site-specific dashboard. And so we always try to keep that in mind of like, how extensible can we make this without compromising the functionality for the users?
Can you give us a flavor of what projects are maybe without mentioning specific names of partners, but just the types of opportunities that now are open to partners that they have been saying like, okay, once we have this, we can do that, given the feature to do the custom dashboards?
Yeah, absolutely. I know of a couple partners that are building very assessment specific dashboards. So there's either assessments that are very specific or very popular in their state or location that they're building dashboards that do a real deep dive into that. This isn't about a specific dashboard, but I think it's a cool thing that this enables, which is that areas or locales that have a collaborative that is maybe can serve as a middleman between the state and the districts, but also is just a collaboration of districts that are working together and have an organization that is overseeing that. In those cases, what we're hoping and what we're seeing this enable is that a larger district that has capacity to build these dashboards, that has a data team, they're building a dashboard and passing it on to that collaborative. And then that collaborative organization is able to push it out to all of the other districts, including smaller districts that don't necessarily have the capacity and time to build those out themselves. And so I'm really excited about that possibility of the the shared data structure, this collaborative approach is allowing smaller districts that wouldn't necessarily usually be able to get this custom work to be able to get it at very low cost to no cost. And it also, the collaborative layer also makes the larger districts more comfortable sharing those dashboards because they're not the like first call when someone has a question about it, right? That goes to the collaborative instead. So it is both enabling a lot more custom use, but also enabling districts that might not be able to build these on their own to get some of the benefits of this as well.
We've talked a bit about the promise of this, but can you walk us through some of the challenges that arose as you were considering this particular suite of options and like what you had to overcome in order to get it to the point where now it has wider release?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the challenges that we faced was more of a systems level thinking challenge around um, how, and sorry, this might get a little technical, but like how tenants interact with each other in our system. Um, in our user management system, organizations were completely siloed and separate. Um,
Can
well,
you say real quick, Katie, just
yeah,
for the audience that might not, can you just say what a tenant is real
yeah,
quick?
yeah, absolutely. A tenant is a basically an also yeah, we have so many different definitions, but
I was like, ugh, that's gonna be, let's see what Katie answers here
I
for this
know.
one.
Sorry, I didn't realize that was a loaded question.
No, all good. Rosh, I will not be using the starting blocks definition of tenant. So just know that right away. Um, in user management, a tenant is the organization that is kind of pushing the data or is responsible for the data and is managing all of the use and users access to that data. And so um, each district is separate, which makes sense, but we also have these collaboratives that work with multiple districts and can have access to all of that data um, and can push out dashboards to these different districts. And we just had no way in our architecture to support that or understand what that should look like. And so we spent a lot of time designing out the solution for that, trying to figure out the edge cases, or at least define the edge cases and define if we were going to support it or not. Like, are there these collaboratives that can see the data, but they can't actually publish dashboards to them, things like that. So there was a lot of like rethinking how organizations within our system can interact with each other, which it feels very separate from publishing dashboards, but is really important to make sure that the right people can see the right data and can interact with the right dashboards.
Yeah, it's that same like we are like a big layer cake and figuring out ways to get the right people to the right layer is like a eternal challenge in education, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one other challenge that we didn't address through this, but now are trying to address is that as we build in more ability for custom dashboards, you might be getting into more areas where you really want to restrict that access, right? If you're building custom finance dashboards, not everyone in the district should see those finance dashboards. Um, and so our next big feature we're building is the ability to restrict access to which dashboards folks can see within an organization. So that is a challenge that arose that we are now addressing, but will not be addressed in this first iteration.
So what's next on the agenda for Podium besides the what you just talked about? Like what are the next frontiers that you're exploring, starting to think about, hearing from the field as like this is the next kind of big challenge to address from a data viz standpoint?
Yeah, yeah. Restricting, allowing more customization at the district level of who can have access to what is definitely one of the biggest initiatives right now. We are in we are we just rolled out some dashboards around some more predictive analytics. So predicting, I think I mentioned this, predicting proficiency, predicting growth. And we are looking to push more into some of the like uh, predictions. We're showing real-time data, but can we show you where things may end up so you can figure out where to intervene? That's an area we're potentially interested in growing into. Um, and then providing more dashboards that look into data quality that allow you to validate that what's flowing through to the Stadium and Podium system is what you expect. That is another thing we are hoping to tackle here soon. Um, as the data goes through so many layers of transformation, it can be hard to know whether it's what you expect or not. So we want to add some more tooling to help make that easier for folks.
From a like looking forward into the future, we haven't talked about it. We've talked in a few of our recent podcasts about AI. Are there any kind of AI facing features that are make sense for the Podium roadmap? Are there any things that Preset has offered that would be materially part of it? Or because this, what are your thoughts there as it relates to Podium as a product and its posture regarding AI and AI tooling?
Yeah, absolutely. Preset is working on a variety of AI tools that to enable in their space. So they have some tools around query writing, and they're looking into some other AI capabilities. We've been really active in testing those with them and providing feedback. Um, we on query writing, it's really important to understand the data. So we're working with them to make sure the right context of the data is being provided. Um, but none of that is currently available. On the application side, I am really interested in if we can um, explore using AI or AI chatbots to help folks understand and make meaning of charts quicker, and what their takeaways should be is one way we could approach it. The other way we could approach it, which I'm interested in, is like giving an AI a lot of context about district or state specific policies and rules and interventions. And so that when they are seeing something in the chronic absenteeism dashboard, they can kind of like go back to what are the recommended interventions for in this area for when this is happening, like really trying to feed in district specific context so that there can be more structured feedback about what should come next, what should you do with the results you're seeing in these dashboards. Um, those are just my early thoughts as we're like starting to think about this, and we don't have any action on that yet, but those are some of the things I'm hoping to explore.
Sure.
I
So
think
as
we've also talked about maybe like a special education focused dashboard. Is that still somewhere on the horizon?
Yeah,
I know
it
it
definitely,
depends on a lot of data, underlying data
yeah.
questions.
Yeah, there are a couple of kind of expansions of the dashboard suite that rely on some underlying data questions. Special education dashboards are definitely something we are interested in exploring and building for folks at some point. Finance dashboards are another, like human capital analytics spaces. So there are definitely different domains of data we're looking to expand into as well.
for follow-ups and people that are interested in Podium, what's the right access point for them to maybe do a follow-up on their own, and then how do they go about saying we want to see what the next steps are with getting Podium?
Yeah, if you go to adanalytics.org and go to the product site, um, there's a Podium page that talks you through all of the different functionality and gives you a space to reach out to us and express your interest. On that page, there's also a link to our demo site, demo.getpodium.org, where you can uh, log in as if you were a user and see that core dashboard suite that we've been talking about today.
Yeah, I will say that the dashboard demo is really nice. It has been super helpful to get people in the space of seeing the results of their hard work on the data side and having the ability to, even if things are wrong, just to see, okay, we're missing this school, or why does this attendance look so strange? And then having an action item to go back upstream to the source and say, okay, let's examine that, and then have a trigger to actually follow up on data quality issues at the source has been super helpful. And getting people to have a place where they can then, without looking at real student data, ideate about, okay, if we did have this product in our district, this is what we could do. Or if we did have this at the state level, this is what we could do. It's been super helpful. So if you're interested in just seeing how this product works and what kinds of things it shows you out of the box, the demo site is like about as full features as you can get. It's like not even like a stripped down version of the demo, like when you consider a demo. So anything else, Katie, in terms of like what you want to leave the audience with that you'd want to share regarding the process, the like your experiences, and anything that you want to kind of say as final thoughts?
That's a great, very wide question. But yeah, I would just say I was when we went into this idea of like everyone has the same questions, can we build a dashboard that works for everyone? I was I was kind of skeptical that we could do it in that, and I think we really have and can. Like I think these dashboards really answer a lot of these like smaller basic questions that are popping up for folks all the time. And if we can save time for them to dig into more district specific stuff, spend more time helping students, that's really what we're trying to do with Podium. So yeah, please take a look at that demo, see what we're able to uh, able to answer quickly for folks, and see if it matches your needs. And then on the technical side, I would just say there's like, we didn't get into it too much, but it's really interesting when you're the trade-offs that need to happen when you're trying to build something to be super extensible rather than just for one partner or one person, and the level of detail and thought that needs to go into that. And so that's just something that I'm really passionate about, thinking about how to make things as extensible as possible. And so if anyone's in a boat of like thinking in that mode and struggling with it or having questions, I'm always happy to talk through that. It's like one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, I mean, Molly and I were pulled into this work because of dashboards. Like that's actually where our EdFi journey started, is seeing that there were some dashboards that had some of the data that's now represented in Podium. And um, what was not clear at that juncture was the amount of work it took to get there. But we've made a lot of progress in the last 8, 9 years in getting to the point where truly actions taken on the side of the district then have tangible visual dashboards that are rendered within days of initial onboarding, which I think is super, super exciting, and the realization of like lots of dreams along the way. So thank you for the work that you've done in this space, and thank you for continuing to iterate on it.
And thanks for sharing this with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all. This was fun.